Good evening, happy Sabbath to each and every one. Okay. How many kids have electronic toys? Yeah. The Federal Trade Commission has a little problem with them electronic toys. They're not keeping pace with the consumer and technology trends. The toys spy on kids by automatically connecting to the internet through Wi-Fi and deliver tidbits of information about their lives to marketeers. So they're trying to get things passed so that the FTC is supposed to be coming down on those. It's mainly about all of the robot toys. There's dolls and everything else that if you ask them questions, they give you answers and all that kind of thing. Yeah, that gets transferred back. I wonder why it knows what questions to ask. Oh. And of course, most kids, they tell the truth. So what better way to find out what's going on in your house than to ask the kids? So there's a Genesis Toys is one. The company that monitors children comments, nuanced communications, and they're bringing it down that they're not giving adequate notice because before you can record kids, you're supposed to get parental permission. So there's quite a battle there between the ones that want to know everything about you and the ones that say you're not following the law. This one. According to the world, what is the holdup on getting the temple rebuilt in Jerusalem? Yeah, what's the holdup? What's this? What is it that's going to, that they have to get done before they can get the temple going? What did Jesus say about the priests?
Their house was left to them desolate.
Tribe of Levi. They're doing DNA tests. DNA holds secret to rebuilding the temple. Says biblical priesthood can be established through genetics. Yeah. They've been working on this for 9 years. According to prophecy, now listen to this. This is what, according to prophecy, there will be a third temple. And when there is, we will need to identify the priest. Without them, it is an empty building. And unfortunately, even with them, it's going to be an empty building. Priests are a subset of the tribe of Levi. So that is what is going on there. Yeah. The rabbi noted that genetics will not have the final word. According to Malachi 3:23, Elijah the prophet will appear before the Messiah to clarify precisely this issue. Who is a priest and who is not, and the tribe to which each Jew belongs. When Elijah arrives, if he wants the DNA information, we will be happy to give it to him. But he will probably be making his determinations based on a higher source. I thought that would be quite interesting as to how the world is viewing things. And they claim to be following the same book that we got. But for some reason, I don't know, hearing they don't hear, seeing they don't see. Of course, you will know that this did not come from the United States. Couples have until the end of the year to get married or face legal consequences. Said the crackdown on informal relationships was needed to combat a population explosion. He said too many schoolgirls were getting pregnant and men were taking advantage of women by cohabitating with several simultaneously. He would begin to run for the controversial third term. We want people to understand everyone is responsible for his life. We want order in this country. All this is done within the framework of patriotic training and program. It's not clearly exactly what the sanctions will be for those not tying the knot on what they face. What country do you think that is coming to? It will be against the law to live with someone if you are not married.
Oh, wow.
Burundi.
Where?
Burundi. B-U-R-U-N-D-I. Africa.
Oh.
Like I say, you knew it wouldn't happen here in the United States.
Of course.
This next one is a long one. I have read through it, tried to find a place to stop and start and to shorten it, so we'll see what we can do here. The title is Why an Ignorant People Cannot Be a Free People. Earliest human records appear about 3,000 or 4,000 BC. We've got, so far it's, yeah, I mean, it's pretty accurate. Sumerian cuneiform on clay tablets in the Mesopotamian Valley was followed by Egyptian hieroglyphics on papyrus and Chinese characters in bamboo books. The writing was first an accounting method for scribes to keep track of what their king owned. Then it was used to record of the king's degrees, genealogies, and astronomy. Only kings, upper class, and scribes could read. They made ancient Egypt with an overall literacy rate of less than 1%. Thousands of cuneiform and hieroglyphic characters were not only difficult to learn, the lower classes and slaves were not allowed to learn them. This facilitated the government's control of the illiterate masses. Kings wanted subjects to blindly obey, not to think for themselves. As I read this, it's like, no wonder God overthrew those, and as this brings out, all the Jews, the Hebrews, they all knew how to read. Pre-Civil War America experienced something similar to this when the Southern Democratic states made it a crime to teach slaves to read. This is Claude Strauss wrote, "Ancient writing's main function was to facilitate the enslavement of other human beings. Kings ruled by honoring and rewarding those who obeyed them, by dishonoring and striking fear of death into those who did not." The first well-recorded instance in history of an entire nation ruling itself without a king was Israel, when it broke away from Egypt's Pharaoh around 1500 BC. When Moses came down Mount Sinai, he not only had the law, he had it in 22 characters of the alphabet. That was so easy to read, the entire nation could read it. Israel is perhaps the first instance in history of an entire literate population. Not only were the children of Israel free, they could maintain their freedom because everyone could read. And not only could they read the law, they were required to, as the law was addressed to each individual citizen. A fundamental principle of the Hebrew government was the education of the whole body of the people. An ignorant people cannot be a free people. Intelligence is essential to liberty. No nation is capable of self-government which is not educated to understand and appreciate its responsibilities. Upon this principle, Moses proceeded in the framing of this commonwealth. There is reason to believe that the ability to read and write was an accomplishment more generally possessed by the Hebrews than any other people of antiquity. Wherever there is a king, the friends of the king are more equal. Those not friends with the king are less equal. Those who are enemies of the king are dead. For Israel's first 4 centuries, it did not have a king, being ruled instead by the law. The law declared there was no respect of person in judgment. Rich or poor were treated the same. Male or female, made in the image of the Creator. Even the stranger living among them was under the same law that they were under. This was the beginning of the concept of equality. As it was, there was no royal family to seek favors from, no superior, no inferior class, no caste system. Israel's experiment in self-government was dependent on one thing: the priest teaching the people to read the law. The law was empowered when people were taught that there is a God who knows every thought and sees every action. God wants you to be fair. God will hold you accountable in the next life. When the priests neglected teaching the law, everyone did what was right in their own eyes. And the country fell into moral chaos. Out of their rebellious moral chaos, Israel got a totalitarian ruler, King Saul, who soon killed a large number of the priests, with the notable exception of Abiathar escaping to David. The pattern was clear. For a country to maintain order without a king, there needed to be a citizenry educated in moral restraints. This was understood during the American colonial era, where education and morals were a high priority. After independence, large numbers of immigrants arrived in America. The response was to create common schools for them. Who do you think was the first one to start the common schools in America? You know his name. It's on a lot of books. Noah Webster. He saw that the education system wasn't too good and that people couldn't read and write, so that's where he started with his training, spelling, and got into the literacy. And if you read his book, you'll become quite literate. Noah Webster served 9 terms in Connecticut's legislature, 3 terms in Massachusetts, where he lobbied for funding of public education, arguing the government should discipline our youth early in life and sound maximum of moral, political, and religious duties. Society requires that the education of youth should be watched with the most scrupulous attention. Education, in a great measure, forms the moral characters of men, and morals are the basis of government. Education should therefore be the first care of a legislature, for it is much easier to introduce and establish an effectual system for preserving morals than to correct by penal statutes the ill effects of a bad system. Anyway, he goes on to tell about the different things and that he was he put forth. One of them was that if you went to church, well, I'll read them here. 1, classes may be organized by any Sunday school or church or any other religious organization for the purpose of studying the Bible in their respective organizations with a view to obtain a high school credit. Successful completion of the course gives 1/2 unit credit toward high school graduation. And there was an application that the teachers filled out, and that's how it went. And one of the requirements, it must be a minimum of 40 class periods of 90 minutes net teaching time, or 60 60-minute periods net time, or 80 45-minute periods. In no case will fewer than 40 different class sessions be accepted. I mean, this is the text used in the New Testament study course, a syllabus published by the authority of the Board of Education for use in the Bible study. The New Testament, the course itself, is a minimum course, and the rest was up to everybody else. One of the emphasis, ability to name and classify the books of the Bible. General knowledge of the New Testament is outlined in the course study. Reading of the entire New Testament is required. Ability to reproduce the memory passages indicated in connection with the lessons given in full in the appendix. Required every memory verse. Pupils should be able to reproduce from memory each of the following quotations when given the accompanying lead, the book, chapter, and verse reference. And goes on from there. And so you can see that we have gotten a long way from that. And we have lots of study to do in a short period of time.